Okay, coronavirus. How did it come to all this? How we're in this situation? For this, first, I gotta suggest a book for you to read. I guess they have it in English translation too. This man, Victor Schauberger. Victor Schauberger, he was a Austrian forest ranger, and he was learning everything about water, right? So he understood that the forest, the main good that keeps the forest alive is the water that flows through them. And he was actually building, fixing rivers and fixing their amplitude to make them flow smoothly. So what is about the water? The water has a special anomaly which at 4 degrees Celsius it becomes the densest. It can't be further densified. While at 0 degrees Celsius, when it freezes, it's actually more expanded and it has 4 degrees Celsius. So most things, if you have it at 0 degrees Celsius, when they finally crystallize, they're denser than when they're liquid. But water at 4 degrees Celsius is more dense than when it crystallizes. With that said, that's the point we're trying to get to. So if we have a forest, a river, it usually comes from a mountain. It rolls from a mountain and declines the mountain. As it declines the mountain, it winds itself like left and right, and it stays around the 4 degrees Celsius anomaly point. And at that point, it has the highest power to carry nutrients. It has the highest power to exterminate bacteria, to exterminate virus, and to keep the forest in a beautiful, untouched state. So as soon as we start touching these rivers for power plants or different things and draining the water from them, the natural circle, or even just like making that river straight and not like this, like it should be, we messing with the equilibrium. I mean, look at our veins. You see how they are? The veins are crooked. They're moving left and right. That's how the water's supposed to flow, because water's the earth, of the blood of the earth. So anyway, we're gonna talk about the water cycle. So water comes out the air. Actually can nivellate. It can be created out the air with the right polarity, like the right charge, because everything is diamagnetic, like a magnet. So if you polarize the particles enough, you can get water that is created from, out of the air, because it can sublimate out the air. And that's, for example, with certain metals like copper, and that you keep in a closed environment where the reaction actually can happen. Like there's a magic sarcophagus in I think it was France, that had healing properties, and they kept closing the sarcophagus, and it would fill itself with water. Then they opened that and it was healing water, and people couldn't explain itself. It was a mystery to them, but it happens because copper has this charge that attracts the water, and if you put it in a closed system, the water will crystallize itself out. So going back to the different atmospheres. So we have the hydrosphere, we have the atmosphere, we have the earth sphere, we have the fire sphere, right? Like, it might not be named like that, but we have these 4 elements that all have different spheres. And the core of the earth is this big fireball, this big iron core that rotates and actually creates our magnetic field. Then around that, we have the earth sphere, like the mineral sphere, where all the things are, and the crystals and the different earth minerals, Then we have the hydrosphere and the atmosphere, and they're all connected. They're all interconnected with each other. They're all spheres like this, into itself. Spheres that are all connected into itself, like a big onion, right? Like a big onion. And basically, the whole water cycle is water comes down, hits the ground, it goes underground, it mixes with the groundwater where all the nutrients are, because the groundwater is usually next to the oils that are that are nutrients the plant needs. So as the water comes down, the earth should be cold enough for the water to matriculate down into this groundwater, to mix itself with new nutrients and come back up and feed the earth and feed the planet. But if we take all this oil here, we mess up the natural cycle, and deserts are gonna, these forests are gonna turn into deserts. So the forests are the lungs of the earth, and pulling all that oil out the earth, we've been destroying the planet from inside out, And I know they haven't been telling us this because they're all companies and they want to make money and they're crooks. So that's why we don't know about these things, right? So when the earth is like concrete or tar or hotter than the water is not able to enter this point right here. It's not able to enter to go to the groundwater and get new nutrients. So it evaporates right back into the sky, has no nutrients, and falls back to the ground. And it gets more sour and sour, and it gets less from that 4 degrees Celsius anomaly point that makes the water so beautiful and rich in nutrients. Even the trout can stand in the river and stand in the river. And if you're a fisher, you know trout will stay in the river when it's cold. It will be out there, and when it's getting warm, it comes up because it needs that vortex that 4 degree creates. And here we come to the vortex. Water is supposed to be led from the outside in, a spiral from the outside in, integrating itself, right? That's what water's supposed to do. But that's one type of technology, implosion, like something is getting integrated and self-concentrated. And then we have something that is explosion, when things come from the center and they flow out the center. They flow out the center. So that is destructive. While this one is integrating, it flows into the center. The one that is flowing out is destructive. So all the technologies we use, airplanes and cars and these things that they give us, you know what I mean? They're all explosive technologies, destructive, and not building on top of each other like a spiral that is coming from the inside in, outside in, and calls itself into itself further. So if you have that 4 degree anomaly point, the water has to call itself into itself more, even if the sun hits it, because it creates a membrane. It creates a membrane around itself where the 4 degrees Celsius turn into movement, into further integration and further vortex building, than in evaporation and destruction like it does when the water is not at 4 degrees Celsius. So in destroying our rivers and destroying our nature, we give Earth a toxic environment where virus, bacteria, and things like that can exist. So in handing over the power to these oil companies and driving in these cars and flying in these airplanes, we're destroying the planet. And we have destroyed the planet so far that now it can't annihilate these viruses anymore, because the rivers are messed up, the forests are messed up, the whole planet is dying. It can't protect itself anymore. It can't protect us anymore. And that's exactly what happened. We messed with nature, the water cycle. I know it's not easy to understand. You have to look into it yourself. Look into Victor Schauberger, that guy I told you, Victor Schauberger. Because regular water science will not tell you this. And understand how the water cycle is disrupted and why the 4 degree anomaly point is so important for a fresh running river. I doubt that many people nowadays have tasted fresh running good water straight out of a fountain in the earth, in the mountain. It's the most refreshing, the single most beautiful thing you can drink. And trust me on that. Just go into nature and try to find a fountain like that. I'm from Austria, so I still know, because parts of there are really untouched and they're very natural still. You know, it's changing more and more every day. But it's just like the best thing you can drink, and has healing properties, you know. It can heal people of cancer. It can heal people of all these different diseases, because everything is an inflammation. So if you have something that can alkalinity, clean this inflammation, it's going to save you. It's going to save you, and it's going to heal you. While something that is turned sour is just like a sore body. It can't defend itself before it's getting to overheat. So that's exactly what's going on. We have disrupted that natural water cycle. We've befouled the water, and now we got this virus that is just running around rampant. Call me crazy for calling this the reason, but that's the reason. Okay, let me give you a little additional explanation too. To why the 4 degrees Celsius, basically because everything is a vibration. Everything is going back day and night, day and night, day and night, right? Day and night, day and night, day and night. And the earth is something like that too. It's a vibration. in the vibration, right? Like if you zoom in this part, you go in, you zoom in, there's more vibration. So the earth is a vibration. It looks to us as a sphere because we live on the planet, but if you would actually be able to zoom out far enough, it will turn into like an amplitude, and an amplitude into an amplitude. The whole universe is just a sinus wave, boom. And the 4 degrees Celsius help the Earth, the water, to swing with that 4 degrees Celsius state. You know what I mean? To swing with that universal vibration. And the Earth is basically a crystal. It's a living crystal. It's a living being. And in having this 4 degrees Celsius water point, it can vibrate, and it can take that resonant frequency to propel itself and to move effortless. While when it's getting upset and it's getting like off the 4 degrees, it can't defend itself. It loses its immunity. It gets sour. It gets foul, and it starts even taking off the river banks, and it gets to flooding, and the whole ecosystem is messed up. You know what I mean? And after all, our woods provide us with all the food, provide us with all the new water, provide us with all the fresh air. So our forests are the most important thing that we have on the earth. You know, those ecosystems. And then also why is the groundwater so important and the oil so important? Well, consider the oil, the old plants, the old things that decomposed, like our ancestors pretty much, and then after decomposition, they carry all these nutrients and they mix with the groundwater. And when the water comes down from the top, it can mix with these carbonates, right? And you know what carbonated water does? It goes up. It's doing that, like, right? Like, I don't know the term for it in English right now, but basically it's getting elevated properties, so it can elevate throughout the cracks of the earth, and it takes all this goodness with it on the way up, and then it gets fresh new nutrients for the plants. You know what I mean? And with that being said, understand about the earth, learn about the earth. Why has it come to this, and why have we given these crooks, these bandits, like this evil man, the reins of our earth to destroy our planet? And why haven't we been listening to the ones before us that have been telling us what's going on, and we took the comfortable, easy route? And that's where we at right now. We're in a big whole world of trouble. Like, there's people that say there's no coronavirus, which is complete nonsense, because obviously there's people affected by it, and there's, like, you know, you can study about the virus, so it's not a made-up problem. But the virus is here now, and it's here for the reason that our atmospheres turned toxic, that all the rivers have turned toxic, and that Earth can't defend itself anymore against this virus. And it broke out now, and here it is. And how do we get rid of it? How do we get rid of all these problems that are going to follow still? You know, I don't think this is the end of what is going to happen. I think this is just the inevitable breakdown of what we've been doing to our Earth, to our home Earth. And if you think about it, like these weeks now, there's hardly any airplanes in the sky. There's hardly any cars driving. It's a break for Mother Earth, man. You know, it's a break for her, and it's a sit down for us to kind of reconfigure and re-understand, like reevaluate our behavior that we have been doing, we have been destructive on this earth. And yeah, man, you know, it's bad that people are dying, but obviously we haven't been addressing these things, so now people are dying. So it's not the virus's fault. It's not nobody else's fault. It's our fault, because we have just been sitting around and watching the earth get messed up. And I think in the long run, it's going to turn into a positive thing, because look what happened now. You appreciate your food more. You appreciate your water more. You appreciate your family more. All of a sudden, you have a higher appreciation for life, because you know it could be gone, right? So, with that being said, I ask you for the time of reflection to study, to learn why water is so important to us, to our environment, and for everything that's going on. And just to stay positive, man, because we're gonna go get through this, and we're gonna survive this, and we're gonna walk into a better world after we after we awakened to our own inherited failure, also an own inherent strength, right? Okay, so with that, I wish you all the best in these hard times. Keep studying, keep reading, keep learning. Get yourself some books. Don't just read anything off the internet, because that's controlled by those who don't want you to know. And, you know, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. If it's good questions, I will definitely answer. I'm over here learning. I'm over here studying more and more, you know, to make a difference. And, you know, it's that principle, vortex principle. Like everything in life, it's a vortex. It turns in itself, like the galaxy, like north, south, east, west. Like a frisbee flies as a flying disc. And they tell us we need airplanes.
This is what it is, okay? I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.